A very good morning to you, our viewer, listener, and follower. Welcome to our seventh session of the Citizen Baraza. Like I have said before, a Baraza is Swahili for a public meeting. So we continue to have our public meetings every Friday using different online platforms. And this morning we have a very interesting topic. I know wherever you are, you have experienced some electricity challenges. So we are going to discuss the state of electricity generation in this country. My name is Duncan Nabigaba and I'm going to be your host. Who is responsible for electricity generation in Uganda? It is the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited, UEGCL. UEGCL was set up in 2001 as a limited company to manage electricity generation activities following the restructuring of Uganda Electricity Board. Initially, they were in charge of operating and maintaining Narubare and Chira power stations, which are located in Jinja. However, in 2003, these were given away to ESCOM Uganda Limited, who were given a 20-year concession that will expire in 2023. Following commissioning of Isimba Dam in 2019, the 183 megawatt power station was given to UEGCL to operate, maintain, and supervise. And they are also currently supervising the works on the 600 megawatt Karma hydropower power plant, whose works stand at 98% and is due for commissioning anytime from today. UEGCL is also responsible for developing and supervising other small hydropower stations and reusable energy stations, including Muzizi, Maziba, Ratoro, Nyagak, and other small power stations. So with us this morning to tell us about the state of energy, of electricity generation in Uganda, how many megawatts are we generating, and who is doing what, is the head of communications and corporate affairs at Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited, Mr. Enoch Akusasra. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Duncan. I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you. So I'm sure the viewer there mostly interacts with Umeme, and Umeme always carries the blame for almost everything. But we understand there are so many players in the electricity sector in Uganda: UEGCL, UETCL, UEDCL, ELA, REA, Umeme, ESCOM, Bujagar Company Limited, etc. So how is UEGCL different from all these players, and what exactly is your mandate?
Thank you so much, Duncan. Good morning to our viewers and the followers on our platforms. You forgot another important stakeholder, the consumers. They are also a very important player in this equation of electricity supply. UEGCL basically is where the process begins. Our mandate is to establish, acquire, operate, and maintain electricity generation facilities in the country. And as we do that, we are also promoting research and innovation. And we make sure that the company also runs on very sound business principles. So there are four important words for us to take care of. First of all, is to establish. So like we are putting in place Karuma, like we put in place Isimba, that we are going to put in place Nyagak with other partners. But we also acquire. We can have those established by others, but we acquire them. Just like we are going to acquire Namamve Samo plant, the Samo plant that was developed by our friend Jacobson. So we acquire those ones. Then we operate. So when you have established or when you have acquired, you operate it. The day-to-day running of the plant. And then of course you maintain. So that is our mandate. And of course it does not end with hydroelectricity alone. No, we are, because now like Namanve, that is Samo. They are generators. They generate about 50 megawatts, 50 point something megawatts. So that's not hydro, that's Samo. We are also doing projects in solar. We are trying to have floating solar, especially on our reservoirs. Like you see, you went to Isimba, you saw the reservoir in the upstream. So you can have a solar project there. All these are ideas that we are working with. So in brief, that is the mandate of UEGCL.
Yeah, so you've talked about solar.
Yes.
I understand Uganda could be having the biggest solar power plant in Gomba or somewhere in the central, which generates around 20 megawatts or something.
Thereabouts.
Yeah. So is UEGCL involved in that?
No.
It's entirely a private company.
There are so many private players in the sector. You have heard of Electromax. There are many other people who are generating electricity and adding it onto our grid.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, these are some of the things that our viewers certainly do not know. Yeah. The assumption is, for us, the assumption is that electricity comes from the dams.
But
so
what I should probably do is to give a background. We used to have Uganda Electricity Board. You and I were children in the times of UEB. But in 2001, UEB was split into different arms: the generation branch, the transmission branch, and the distribution branch. And you know why that happened? You remember something called the Structure Adjustment Program?
Yeah, the World Bank.
You remember privatization
program? Yeah.
Then there was what was it called? I'm forgetting it. Then we had the Electricity Act of 1999. So these branches, they became companies, government companies, and each one of them concentrated on their specific mandate. So that's how UEGCL was created, that's how distribution was created, and that's how transmission was created.
Oh, interesting background.
Yes.
Yeah, so the
reason was, I should add, that first and foremost, it was very hard for government to do business. So you remember there were conditions. Government should get out of business, doing business. This business of, I am giving you electricity pay, it should not be government. Government can own those facilities, but these facilities can be managed by a private player.
Yeah.
And that's how ESCOM came in. Narua Arechira. Okay. That's how they got that concession. The facilities are ours, but they came in to do the business there, to invest in the plant, if the machinery and other things, but also to collect revenue. The thinking then was that government, it was too inefficient to do business because so many government companies at that time were meeting challenges. Uganda, UEB had been renamed Uganda Executive Board, Uganda Transport Corporation. They all had challenges, yeah. So we went privatization. Yes.
Yeah, so
there was something called Public Enterprise Reform and Divestiture Act of 1991. Actually, that's what caused the disbanding of UEB among other state enterprises.
Yes. Yeah, so the plant you are acquiring in Namamve, which was operated by Jacobson, how big is it? And is it the one powering the industrial park, or?
What happens is, it generates electricity, it is added on the grid, Now it's the work of transmission to know how much electricity goes where. For us, our mandate stops at generating. When we generate, we give it transmission. You were in Karuma, you saw the audio substation, and you saw the substation of UEGCL at Karuma. So when we get it out of the power, out of the water, from the turbines, we give it to UEGCL. So now so our mandate is on generation. Yeah. So it can be hydro, it can be solar, it can be thermal, and we are exploring other alternative energy sources.
Yeah, okay. So this question I'm going to ask is not entirely UEGCL, but I want to ask something about ESCOM. So how do companies like ESCOM operate? Do they have, let's say, does government set a target and say, in this financial year, we're expecting this amount of revenue from you, or ESCOM collects revenue, then declares profit and says, government, you're taking, according to the agreement, maybe you're taking this percentage, you are taking this percentage?
No, as you rightly said, that is not my question.
Yeah.
That is a question of the regulator, Electricity Regulatory Authority. But our relationship with ESCOM is that we supervise their operations. We go see how they are generating, we see the status of the plant, we see. As we are doing that, also the regulator is also looking at the tariff issues. How much are you generating? How much are you selling? At how much? Those are issues of regulatory authority. They are not ours. But as you rightly said at the beginning, the concession is ending. The public outcry, not the public outcry, the public outcry has been that we have so many middlemen, in the supply chain. Anyway, but it's not my role to discuss, but the concession is ending, and our hope is that by 2023, we probably will take over Naruvari and Chira to run them again, to operate and maintain, just as we are doing in Simba.
Yes, as a host, I think I'm a neutral person, so I can make a comment. The reason the consumer really blames Umeme for giving them very few Yaka units all the time is because there are so many players. Right from the electricity source, let it be a hydropower station at Naruvari or Chira, you have so many players there. You have ESCOM, the company that is, generating. You have, the transmitter. You have the distributor. By the time it comes Umeme, so many players. And all those players, each is earning a tariff from you. There is, there's a fee you pay to all those agents. So that's what, sometimes, always, will push the fares we pay for.
And I put a disclaimer right there that the views expressed by moderator in this discussion are purely views of the moderator and are not necessarily shared by the spokesperson of UEGCL or even UEGCL.
Absolutely, like I've said.
But what we should
I own that explanation as a moderator because I'm a neutral person.
What we should also appreciate is that at some initially, I think it was necessary to bring in these middlemen because, as I told you, when UEB was unbundled, I think UEGCL at that time did not have even enough resources to run Naruvar and Chira. And indeed, as government observed then, there was no capacity in terms of human resource, in terms of finances, in terms of, and there were lots of issues, governance-related issues in government at that time. So it was proper for government to get a private player, because we are doing PPPs, and it's okay to get a private player to deliver this service to Ugandans. So it's not bad. We are not demonizing them, but probably over time now, 20 years, we have built enough capacity. This is what we are saying. We have built enough capacity. We can now take over these plants and run them efficiently.
That's so good. That's so encouraging.
Yeah.
So you want to brief, like you submit, the less the middlemen, the less the cost of electricity. Yeah, so back to generation now. The people of northern Uganda, especially West Nile.
Yes.
There are, there are concerns. They are like our neighbor in the north. There is a capital city which runs on generators somewhere in the north of this country. Yeah, so the people of West Nile have always complained. They are not yet on the national grid. And there are also regular power cuts in northern Uganda, particularly Acholi and Lango sub-regions. And then the NRM government has been saying we increased power production from 60 megawatts in 1986, which actually is true. The previous governments had actually run down Nairobi power station from 150 megawatts to 60 megawatts by 1986. NRM revived it and has now increased generation across the country to more than 100, or rather 1,200 megawatts. But there are still concerns of electricity in northern Uganda. What plans do you have? When are you connecting West Nile on the national power grid?
Whereas that question goes to another player in the supply chain, I can state without any fear of contradiction that we are putting up a 600 megawatt plant in northern Uganda, Karuma Yuso. It's going to be mega. You saw that substation in Orio. We are also we are working on Nyagak, as I told you. Nyagak most likely will be complete by 2023. We are working on, it is a PPP. We are working with another private company. For us, we are investing in land. We will be holding shares in Nyagak, like any other PPP. So they will they construct, operate, and run for a certain period of time. But what I should say is that with Nyagak and Karuma, the problems of electricity supply in West Nile will be solved. So I don't think we can generate 600 megawatts in Karuma and northern Uganda remains without electricity. Just like Unoka, things far apart. Unoka, the father of Okonko, he was a bad data. So one day all his data came. So he got a piece of wood and started drawing lines in the sand, short and long ones. And he said, do you see these short ones and long ones? He said, okay, yes. But we want our money. These long ones and short ones here, the sun shall rise on those who are standing, the long ones, before it gets on those who are kneeling. So there is no way electricity will jump those who are standing, especially West Nile and northern Uganda. So we are investing heavily in those dams so that we can solve electricity issues. Yes.
I read No Longer at Ease, and that man was extremely funny, Okonko's father. But I always think because even his name in my language means something not good. Unoka can mean something that smells or something.
Hey, okay. But the Okonko of things far apart is not the Okonko. It's another the Okonko of No Longer at Ease.
Yes.
But that is another subject.
Yeah. Okay. So you UEGCL or your colleague.
The minister has emphasized it, and she's very deliberate and intentional when it comes to power issues in West Nile. We are trying as much as possible to expedite the works at Nyagak so that we can work on the electricity issues of West Nile. But as I said, this is a function of transmission.
Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited.
Yes.
If I may also add, I was at Karuma and I saw Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited has also built a transmission line to Lila, a 132 kV line that is going to improve electricity supply in Lango and Acholi sub-regions. So I can testify that I was at Karuma and I saw that power line.
So for us, we are digging the wells. The wells will be there and they will be full of water. So the other people will come with jerry cans and pick the water.
Yeah, okay.
Just use that local
analogy.
Yeah,
so our viewer, you will have a chance to ask Mr. Enoch Akusasira questions in the next 10 or so minutes. If you have any questions regarding, electricity generation, or you want to ask about opportunities in the electricity generation area, you're going to have an opportunity in the next 10 minutes to ask those questions. Yeah, so we saw the minister touring the power station, the Karuma hydropower plant, and I was privileged to be part of this delegation that toured this humongous facility. I know many people out there cannot believe that at Karuma there is no power station above the river like we see in Jinja.
The dam is underground.
The dam is underground and it is 8 floors under the water. Imagine 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 floors under the water. That's very amazing. And I was there and I must say I was mesmerized and everybody was. Yeah. So the minister toured the hydropower plant. The progress stands at 98%. There had been issues of cracks, and the president intervened and appointed a committee led by Dr. Engineer Badu Chugundu, the former EC chairperson. So have the cracks been fixed, and if so, when can we expect commissioning?
Yeah, Duncan, yes, that is true. We have had a number of defects there, but projects of that magnitude, generally speaking, tend to have such issues. Because that is why there is even a period called DLP, Defects Liability Period. Because it is envisaged that after commissioning this plant, there will be problems in the initial stages. So the DLP for Karma will be 5 years. So it's a normal practice to have defects, but what is important is to have them fixed so that the plant is ready for commissioning. I want to report that most of the defects are being fixed. The contractor assured us and is working with our people. The committee of Chigundu has periodic meetings with those people. Since the year began, the progress has been good. So we hope that by June 2022, we'll be able to commission Karuma and add 200 megawatts on our national grid.
You have had June 2022, we are commissioning Karuma and adding 600 megawatts on the national grid. This will shoot our generation capacity to over 2,000 megawatts. Yes. And we are going to be a powerhouse in this region because very few countries have that capacity. Yeah, so UEGCL did some, corporate social responsibility around the dam,
yes.
Both in the north, that is the Noya and Oyam districts, and then in the that's Bunyoro area around Chiandongo district. Yeah. So what projects have you done for community involvement and development around the dam, and how are they going to improve livelihoods?
We have two types of projects. We have CSR projects, corporate social responsibility projects. Those ones are in the contract. They have been done and are being done by the contractors in Hydro. Then there are what we call CDAP. CDAP it looks like CSR, but it's not. Yes, it has all the hallmarks of CSR, but these are programs from government of Uganda now. So we get to government of Uganda funds through UEGCL, and we impact on these communities. So let me begin with CSR. Hydro has refurbished a military hospital in Masindi. It was commissioned in 16th April 2021. And it had a surgical ward, it had the doctor's house, nurse's house, and a number of other things, equipment, x-rays. So basically the hospital was furnished to the maximum. That is one. That one is already finished activity. So it will help the community of Masindi. It is like a district hospital for the soldiers there, but also the Wananchi. They can access the services there. So they are also upgrading Dichinyi Health Center 4. Dichinyi Health Center 4 I reached there with you. And this is in Noyam. It has, they are working on the screening areas, consultation rooms. There's a doctor's house. There's a house for nurses, and a host of other things that cannot easily come of head. We are also, Sinohydro is also putting up a 6-block classroom, 6-classroom block at Amaji Primary School. It is a nearby primary school, P7 primary school, and they are also building headmaster's house and another block for teachers. They are building headmaster's office. All these ones are at completion level. So why? So that these people who are affected by these projects can be compensated, or those pressures coming from the project can be mitigated. Yeah. So these things are being done for the community so that the community can benefit other things other than electricity. So that is from the side of the contractor. But we are also doing CDAP. CDAP is Community Development Action Programs. We have done the same in Isimba. We are also doing the same in Karuma, and it will come in phases. But in phase 1, we are upgrading primary schools. Not upgrading, but building classroom blocks. I think it is a classroom block, a headmaster's house, an improved toilet for 3 primary schools in the 3 districts. Chiriandongo will be at Dima Primary School, Nora Primary School in Oyam, and Porongo Primary School in Noya, which you and I saw.
Yeah,
we were at the commissioning. I think the money is involved for each school. It will take about 1 billion, about 1.3 billion. So that's about 6 billion. Yeah, so that is what we are doing for those communities.
Yeah, I think it's amazing work.
Yes.
I moved around. I saw
Yeah.
the mosque. I saw the churches that you have built. I saw.
Yes. Then the Ministry of Energy
so
has also worked on those other areas.
yeah. So
There's something they have done at Karuma Primary School. Then you saw the mosque.
Yeah.
You saw the big church.
church.
Karuma. Yeah. Those are directly from Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development.
And of course, also local content. The young people around the area, we are able to get employment
Yes,
in the project.
90% of the casual workers are from the area. Even for these CEDA projects, these projects are attracting employment for our young people there. People who are breaking stones there, people who are the foremen, all those are from the area. Yes, so it is real development.
And I should tell you that, by the way, what really blew off my hair is the staff quarters. You guys have built a very small city in Kiliandongo. It's going to be a very beautiful place, and I'm sure other service providers are going to move in there. And before you know it, the area around Kalma is going to be a small city of sorts.
It's a city.
Yeah.
It's a city because we will be having so many workers. We are not sure about the numbers yet. When we are running O&M, operation and maintenance, of course we cannot maintain the same number of workers. When we are under operation and maintenance, the numbers will reduce a bit. But we want those people to live comfortably. They should have water, decent accommodation facilities. They can have recreational facilities. Yeah, and all these things are in the contract.
Yeah.
All these things are in the contract. I hope you know that the loan we took for Karma is the biggest loan we have ever taken as Uganda. So we are doing all we can to cause real value for money there.
Yeah. I know the figure, and I'm not comfortable mentioning it because it is equivalent to the economies of some of our neighbors.
But what do you want to do? That is the cost of development. What do you want to do if you want to spur industrial development? You must, I was in Japan. The guys were telling me that, you see, we have just finished paying World Bank loans. Japan is number 3 in terms of GDP. USA, China and Japan. But they were paying loans for World Bank. Loans for what? For transport. Japan has very advanced transport system. But you can see that they really put in a lot of money. Roads, everything is standard. But they tell you that they borrowed to put this system in place. So I think it is okay to borrow, but it is very important that once you borrow, then you should realize the value of that borrowing.
Yeah, so future plans. There is talk of Ayago Dam, 840 megawatts, which would obviously overtake Karuma.
Ayago Dam is not our facility yet. It's being developed by a private player, so that's not ours. But the other projects that I can very able to talk about, I have already talked about Nyagak. We are also working on Muzizi. Muzizi, we have partners there, KfW, that is the German Development Bank, and we have AFD, that is the French Development Bank also, and some grants from European Union. So we are working on Muzizi, we are working on Nyagak, and we have other plans, the solar ones that I told you about, and we are taking off Wanamavi. So the power issue will be solved very soon. But remember that even what we are producing today is far above the demand.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading some document from Kenya, Kenyan Energy Report, and I see we are exporting some electricity to Kenya. Yes. UEGCL is.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love. I'm a tourism enthusiast, and before we come to your MOU with UTB, let me first ask about Uhuru Falls. There was some noise, I think rightful noise about Uhuru Falls.
That's also not ours. That's not
it's
ours.
Not yours.
Yes.
Okay. So those who don't know Uhuru Falls, it is a site on the Nile in the Murchison Falls. And I think somebody was undertaking a feasibility study to see if they can build a power dam there. But it is still an inconclusive matter, and I cannot even say that the direction is this. So we'll leave that out. Yeah. So you recently signed a memorandum of understanding with Uganda Tourism Board to market, to transform, and then market Isimba hydropower plant, and then later Kaluma when it is completed as tourist sites, just like primary school kids used to visit Narvare when it was
Owen Falls Dam.
Those
are our days.
Yeah,
yes.
our days. Owen Falls Dam. It was a big thing. People coming from all over the country. If you were in
I never visited Owen Falls Dam until I started working with UEGCL. You can imagine.
I also unfortunately didn't visit Owen Falls Dam until when I was way older, so I missed out. So if I'm a tourist, what is on this buffet at Isimba and Kaluma? What do I get there?
First and foremost, these two power plants, they are on this very important feature on our world map called River Nile. So you go there to see the plant, but you also go there to see River Nile. It's very important. But also, world over, generation sites tend to attract tourists because they are, first of all, they are learning centers. That is why they take their school children. They go there to see the science of power generation, the whole story of turbines. At both sites we will have visitor centers. So in that visitor center, you put a lot of information to do with power generation, because you see, you cannot keep taking people to the powerhouse. That is a high risk area. But what you can do, you can summarize all the important information and display it in the visitor center. Display it using digital display boards or text or pictures or illustrations or things which they call dioramas. You have seen them in museums. You can have a model of electricity generation. It is at Chira, Naruvare. It's there. The whole science there is summarized in a model. How water comes from upstream, how it enters, gets into the turbines, then it makes the turbines rotate and the magnetism there and how power is generated and how the water gets out. And you can have that model there. So people come see that. But also, you see these sites, other than the science and the innovation and the technological marvel, these sites are situated, they are culturally situated, they are in communities of human beings. So you get the history, the culture, the food, the naming system, and you also summarize the information of the community in your visitor center. So people are coming from Isimba. What does the word Isimba mean? Where does it come from? Because you see, it is the name of a power plant now. Power plant that is known worldwide. But what is this name Isimba? Is it from the Wasoga? Is it from the Waganda? What does it mean? So you document that history and display it. People come see that. What is in Isimba? So the culture of the people in the area, the kind of food they eat. Yeah, because it's not just, you have not just put it there. There are people around it. There are people who either affect the operations of the plant or they are affected by the operation. Yeah. So you can see Karuma. It is just at the entry of the biggest national park in the country, at the gateway of Maction Falls. That is a very strategic location. So we'll have a lot to show them. As people come to, you saw the cartoon. After we had left Karuma, no, after we had seen this, someone, I don't know whether it is Spire or who, someone made Karuma look taller than the national park. The impression was that Karuma was going as a tourist center. It was going to overshadow
the park.
But they will be at the same footing, really.
Okay. So my last question.
So do you get it? So they have a lot of tourism potential that we want to promote. Maybe we may not do this work ourselves because our core mandate is not to market. It's not tourism.
Yeah,
maybe we can do with another private player, a certain Duncan. Comes and says we enter an MOU with you. You market this place. Whoever comes there to visit, they give you money. You also give us.
Yeah, I correct my small.
Yes, a franchise of sorts.
Yeah, franchise. Then you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I get
but
it.
You imagine the whole science of a dam underground, those tunnels. We went together to the outfalls.
Yeah.
That you have a river flowing underground there.
8 kilometers.
8 kilometers, and you know people have walked that distance inside there, so people come to see that.
8 kilometers under, then the river comes out.
Because what do you think is interesting about Suez Canal? It's the whole science of putting a canal, a pipe, a tunnel underwater, and just people say it's a technological wonder. Who did this? And we have been told that it was built in 1859 by a certain French engineer who came here, blah blah. So the technology, the innovation, that is also important for people to come and learn about.
Wow, interesting. For one thing that I can say for sure is Karuma is a game. It's a wonderfully built facility, and I would go there as many times as possible as a tourist. Yeah, it's a very it's one of those wonders of Africa. I think it will make it to the list of wonders of Africa. Yeah. So, Mr. Enoch, thank you so much for joining us this morning for our 7th session of the Baraza. And like I have said, Baraza is Kiswahili for a meeting, a public meeting. Yeah. So we do this every Friday at 10. We bring in government people, heads of government.
But is that word Kiswahili alone? Baraza. Baraza, I find it even in the Bantu languages, on the veranda there, where people gather to chat.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know it was in
Swahili. You know, Swahili is a Bantu language.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Swahili is a Bantu language with a small component of Arabic. So,
for the Swahili people, the coastal people.
In Kenya, actually, the Luo of Kenya do not like Swahili. And the argument is, that is the Bantu language. I have a friend, a Kenyan Luo friend, who Abhas speaking Swahili, and his argument is, I can't speak that language. It is a Bantu language. If you want to speak to me, you have to speak to me in English.
Okay.
So most of these words are cross-cutting. So thank you for joining us. So our viewer, the conversation continues on Spaces, Twitter Spaces, where you get to ask your question or make your comment about matters electricity generation. Our guest has been Enoch Akusasra, the Head of Communications and Corporate Affairs at the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited. And my name is Duncan Abigaba. I have been your host. Please get in touch with the GCIC using our platforms, social media platforms, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. You can write to us on email at citizen@gcic.go.ug or send us a WhatsApp on 041470270288. We are still fixing our toll-free call center. So thank you so much. The conversation continues on Twitter Spaces.